Real life trading nation.
Traders and friends, family, team from around the entire world, I am with Robert Thompson III. And I want to interview this magical, mythical man and kind of give you some background on who he is and specifically how amazing he is. I want to pour into him for just a moment. Robert reached out to me about 2 years ago and just started talking to me about how much he loved trading and how much he loved the markets and how much he loved helping people. And he wanted to find a way to blend that all together. But it was a place of sincerity. It was a place of excitement, and it was a place of enrichment from which him and I worked together for a long time. And I just saw very few people on this earth work as hard as he did to be where he's at now. So Robert, thank you so much for taking the time to work with me tonight. And I'm really excited, man, to share your greatness and your skill set with the whole world.
Oh, you're very kind, Jeremy. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be one of your interviewees.
Yes, this is going to be exciting. And for those who are watching, just so that you know, the main reason I'm bringing this up is because Robert Thompson is helping us with hedging with options. You are either about to take this class or you have taken it and you're just intrigued about learning more about who Robert Thompson is. So he's helping me create this program because I did launch hedging with options a few years ago. It's a phenomenal product. And Robert is trading a retirement account fully with options. Is that correct, Robert? There's no stock at all?
That is correct. Yep. I mean, I do a lot of things in a lot of accounts, like you do, I'm sure. But my specialty has become trading IRAs exclusively with options, and all of the fun and exciting ways that can be done.
That is so incredible. Okay, break it down for me. Tell me the trading journey, man. How did you get to where you are now?
The irony is that I'm a musician originally, and I went to school as an adult. Just after coming out of some personal tragedy, I was transitioning in my life to trying to find a way to kind of redeem the past and be born anew. So I thought music was the path for me. I went to college, got a music degree. And then when I got out of college, I discovered that the music industry just isn't really what I was hoping it would be. And I could have made it work, but it was going to take a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice to basically kind of go my own path, which we were already doing in some sense because my wife Priscilla runs a fitness business. And I have an extensive background in retail management, in restaurant management. And so I started stepping into that more and more, and we became a team there. So we figured, why do we want to launch a whole nother business if this business still needs to kind of get where we want it to be? So once we kind of let go of that, I was really searching. I was searching for what I was going to do because helping Priscilla in the business doesn't take up all my time. It takes up some, but I have time to do something with my life. And so it was actually a little bit of a dark time for me after I graduated college. I went to school later as an adult. I mentioned that. So I'm an older man, divorced with 2 kids, remarried to this beautiful, vibrant, fiery Latina who owns her own gym and wants to conquer the world. And I'm just kind of feeling like I need a purpose. Like, Tony Robbins calls it the search for significance. I didn't have a guiding search for significance at that stage in my life. And it was a little bit of a struggle to find something like that.
Yeah.
So by chance, it just so happens that Priscilla had actually dabbled in options trading years before I met her. Did you know that?
Oh, I did not know that. That's wild.
Yes, she paid a lot of money for a course that she did not end up having the time to really use and get much out of, sadly, with a different company, And so she did do some options trading. She placed some trades. She made some money a little bit. She actually made enough to pay for implants. I have 2 implants in my mouth that her trading paid for, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But ultimately, she just didn't have, she needed to focus on the business. You know, that was her thing. That was her deal. And so by chance, a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, was talking to us at a New Year's party one night about how he'd been doing some options trading, and he thought he could really help Priscilla kind of get back on the horse and get going again. Excuse me, the coffee. But she you know, she's like, you know, maybe you should talk to Robert because he's looking for something to really tap into. And this was back in like 2017, I want to say. Because I left college in 2015, again, as an adult. So this was like in 2017. I started meeting with a friend and seeing what he was doing. And I did some YouTube research. I did some internet research. You know, I watched some stuff. And, you know, I was just kind of like a little overwhelmed. The joke was I got a music degree because I didn't want to go blind on numbers and spreadsheets. And now I go blind on numbers and spreadsheets, but I love every minute of it. I could never have been prepared for what trading has come to mean to me and to my wife and our potential future. So I'm thrilled with how it turned out. So I started meeting with this friend. The problem was, Jeremy, he didn't really have a plan that he could really articulate to me as his student. He was basically just kind of winging it a little bit. And he'd been doing it very slowly and in very small size. So at least he wasn't, you know, it being dangerous about it. But he wasn't able to, he would just give me random bits of information. And so I was basically just throwing darts at the wall with, hey, I'll try this trade, or I'll try this trade, or hey, this trade looks interesting, I'll try this. And I really struggled with, what am I looking for? I mean, we've worked together, you know, I'm a little bit of an analytic sometimes in terms of, I'm the rules guy, right? I struggle with, you know, it's a little bit of a feel, it's kind of in this range, looks kind of, no. It's like to the penny, this is what it is. What am I trading? Why am I trading it? I need to know every detail. And some of that at that time was born a little bit out of my insecurity, I think, because I was just terrified of failure and terrified of being wrong. And so that was a little bit of a problem for me in my early going. So I was working with this guy for a little while, traded a little bit profitably early on, but then just started going crazy with stupid trades. I had no concept of risk management because it wasn't taught to me. I'm not blaming him. I should have taken responsibility for my money. But I started with an account that was really way too big for my skill level. You know, at that time, I wanted to be a day trader. I found my new career. Huzzah, let's go, let's do this. And so Priscilla and I sold a rental property that we had, and I took $25,000 of that money and I started trading with it and proceeded to pretty steadily trade it right into the ground.
just dumpster fire.
Oh man, dude. My 3rd month trading on the day after New Year's Day. So every New Year's, my wife and I, we take the whole day. We set our plans, goals, dreams, and visions for the year. So I'm flying high. I'm excited. I'm like, this is going to work. It's going to happen. And the next day, I pull some stupid stuff. And I blow, like at close, I blow like $5,000 away in 5 minutes.
Wow. And so you're still trading options at that moment?
Yeah, I was. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what you were doing? Like, were you buying options or were you trying to do a credit spread or something and went in the money?
Yeah, what I was doing at the time was trying to pick tops and bottoms on the indices.
Gotcha.
And so I, on that particular day, I felt like I could pick up the pennies in front of the steamroller and get a free $100. But not only was the trade bad because I was simply saying to myself, well, the market's going to bounce here, so I don't think it's going lower. That was mistake number 1, not having a plan. Mistake number 2 was that I was nervous about dealing with all of it I wasn't used to trading with those kind of time constraints. I didn't have the experience to really handle the environment. And so I made an order entry error. And I meant to sell 1 credit spread when I sold 10.
Bro, wow.
Yeah, it was
But
bad.
You're the only person that's ever done that, though. So.
Yeah, I know. That's a total me problem, I'm sure.
That's a Robert Thompson 101. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of like rock bottom for me. I blew away 20% of my working capital in 5 minutes. And it was so emotionally jarring that I continued to struggle. And I continued to look for guidance, couldn't really find any real help. I ended up subscribing a couple months later to some other investment coaching services who are currently getting sued by the FTC. So that didn't work either. And then I stumbled onto your YouTube channel and your YouTube videos and started realizing, man, there's a way to do this that is actually simple and professional and isn't a bunch of hoodoo voodoo. Just from watching your classes, I could see that it was unlike anything that I had ever really seen before in terms of training, because I hadn't really had any good formal training up to that point. I was just winging it. And, Priscilla confessed to me later that she expected me to lose money, maybe not as much as I did.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson that I tell anybody who talks to me now about getting into trading is, start small, because the likelihood that you're going to just go gangbusters right away is not high in my experience. Right. Every good trading coach I've ever worked with has blown up an account at least once.
Yep.
So think about that.
Yeah. And I got a mentor, friend, business partner who says that she would never invest with someone who hasn't lost it all. And because she wants to know how that person reacted and what they did and what their life was like when that happened. And of course, that's Brittany Turner. But having being a part of her life and helping her and working with her on so many different projects, it's yeah, man. I mean, that's part of it. That's part of the journey. It becomes a rite of passage, if you will.
Absolutely. You're going to face adversity. So how are you going to respond? How are you going to rise up? How are you going to move on with your life? I had reached the point by that point that I was not going to give up. It was, whatever it was going to take, I was going to get that money back. I was going to figure this out. And if it took me 2 or 3 years, I remember our first phone call when you told me, okay, get ready for a long, studious journey. And it's going to be, at least 2 years long. My heart sank a little bit, but that's because I was still kind of coming from a different message of, hey, get rich now, we can make this happen, do this, 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 and this, and it's like money's going to rain from the sky. So realizing that I had to treat it like a job and put in the work and put in the grind. I mean, I can grind when I am motivated and passionate about something. I can grind with the best of them. That's why I do things like, run marathons and, play instruments and things like that. So I understand the work it takes to achieve greatness. I just needed a direction to point that in. Yeah. That was strong enough to give me a why I could really go after. And initially it was, honestly, Jeremy, for me, it was really just, can I be a man for my family? Can I be a contributing adult? Can I be a provider?
Yep.
Can I take care of my 2 daughters who are struggling in a co-parenting situation the way everybody would? And can I give them hope for their future? Can I take care of my wife who is just probably the hardest working human being I've ever met? I've never seen anybody work as hard as her. We'll just say that. And that's why she has been able to sustain her business for 15 years. And I'm proud to say that I've learned a thing or two from her along the way as well. And that ultimately led me to a point where, I just started putting in the work, putting in the reps, putting in the practice, we came up with a plan. Now, you and I were focusing primarily on day trading. I was already doing my option swing trading thing at that point.
Yep.
And so I had kind of taken pieces of things that I had learned from the different coaches I had worked with. There was a point in the Broke to Woke podcast where Brittany actually talked about the fact that you can't really resent your journey, despite whatever results you feel like may have come from that. It still led you to where you are.
Yep.
And you can still carry forward from there. And that was really true for me. I worked with some charlatans, and I worked with some well-intentioned people who had no idea how to teach this stuff. But I was able to pull together some of the things I had picked up, a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there. And I started putting together my own ideas, and I started, developing my own systems for how I was going to make this work. And that was back in, excuse me, that was back in probably late 2018 that I started putting that stuff together. And it became kind of the staple for how I handle my retirement account now. And that is just a lot of math-based options trading. And I needed something that was consistent. I was attracted to the idea that I could make money regardless of the stock direction.
Right.
And so that's what initially attracted me to options trading and kind of really held me in to that place.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of went from there. And I'm proud to say that in my various accounts, I've made back all of the money I lost and more. And last year was the first year that I was able to completely end the year in all of my accounts higher than they started.
Yeah.
which is not something I had been able to say previously. So
it's amazing.
Praise God.
That's amazing. And I appreciate your vulnerability earlier about you just wanting to be a man, wanting to provide, wanting to have real substance and contribution to the family, because there's a lot of men and women that are going to feel in that position as they are a trader. They've had jobs, they've maybe not done amazing or whatever, and they see trading and stocks as a way to get a financial leverage that can boost their family into financial freedom. And putting that weight on your shoulders is hard, and it's crushing, and it's scary. So I just want to say thanks for sharing that with us, man. And I know a lot of people will resonate with that. So with your math-based options, Robert, can you either just tell us a little bit, or either show us if you have a screen sharing capabilities, like what is that like? Do you only look at the option chain? Do you look at the chart? Do you do both?
That's a great question. I could share some stuff if you want. It would take me a minute to set up, but it's not that complicated. It's up to you.
Yeah, let's hear it. I mean, you're sharing this stuff and hedging with options anyway, right?
I am. Yep.
Yeah.
Everything everything I do is going to be out there in the course, and we're going to look at option chains, and we're going to look at slides and all of that. So, there are a lot of different ways to do it. There are varying degrees, as I'm sure you're aware. There are, purely technical traders, and then there are some traders who do a little bit of this and that, and then there are some Greeks experts, and then there's, the other end of the spectrum where some option traders that I've talked to and met and worked with, they don't even look at charts. And so for my retirement accounts, and for what initially, the system that I built that really started being a consistent winner for me, that I have continued to tweak and develop, it actually is mostly math. And basically what happens is I read some books and developed some principles around portfolio management and how that could be done with options. So when we go into the course next week, I hope to do two things. One, those who have their own trading plans and those who have their own trading systems, but they want to have the extra edge that math-based options trading provides, they're going to get a toolbox of strategies that they can apply to their systems, which is in and of itself, I think, a valuable resource.
Yep.
But what I ended up developing for me and for some of the clients I work with is a total top to bottom portfolio designing system exclusively based on options. And so when you ask what does that really look like, it looks like a lot of numbers. I'm concerned about managing my buy power and my exposure to the market. So especially because a lot of my positions tend to be short premium positions or sold option positions, or another way to put it would be like positive theta options positions, whether it be spreads or naked. Because of that, there's always headroom in the account because those things can be dynamic. They can grow teeth or shrink back as the market moves. So there's portfolio level math metrics that I look at. What's the market doing? How is my portfolio going to react to that? It's a little bit like thinking like a mini hedge fund manager with your own retirement. You're looking at what it's perfect, right? We're hedging with options. That's the whole idea. So it starts there. And then as we go down into the trades, I tend to apply some solid time proven investment principles. I only trade good companies. So I'm not going out there willy-nilly looking for the latest, greatest hot thing that might be here today, gone tomorrow. You talk all the time about ironclad baskets, I think is your term.
Non-breakable baskets, but yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yes. And I don't trade companies that are outside of that category typically.
Yep.
And I look for a lot of liquidity because if you're moving around in options positions, you need that. And we'll get into all of that more next week, of course. And so there is some fundamentals that go into it. I think there's a case to be made for why fundamental trading is good and why it's not so good, as well as a case to be made for why technical trading is good and maybe not so good in certain situations. So I do a little of both. And I look at fundamentals on good companies. I come up with a watch list of things I want to trade. And then I do look at a chart briefly. Very simple, is it above the 200? And just kind of like, we're looking for good companies, but we're also looking for those companies that are on sale. We don't want to buy the top. We don't want to sell into the hole, that kind of thing. So very basic stuff there. And when the list is there, then the math comes in, and that's where it kind of gets fun. We're looking at all of the Greeks. We're looking at the implied volatility levels at all the different companies, and we're looking at the delta of the strikes against, the underlying and where it's at. And once I have come up with a list of good companies that are quote unquote on sale, it's all math from there. It's all math, it's all the option chain, and it's all probabilities and statistics and the Greeks at that point.
So mostly selling is what you're saying, right? Like, so in general.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It depends. I do have, in fact, right now I have quite a few debit spreads because volatility is a little low in the marketplace right now. So we're waiting for a volatility expansion, and you don't want to be short volatility when that happens, or you're going to get blown up. So there are some ways that I manage that. I do a combination of credit spreads, debit spreads, a combination of naked options. There are never any long naked options in my portfolios personally, unless they're part of a spread that they're maybe the focus of. Something like a poor man's covered call, that is built around a longer term dated long naked option, but it's got that protection back in the front month. So I don't when it comes to my specialty and the way I trade my retirement accounts, I don't usually have long premium in my portfolios because I enjoy the mathematical edge of positive theta and lower delta at the portfolio level.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned this briefly, but how do you protect against a COVID? Because if I remember correctly, you were actually profitably trading options during that time when the market had a 30% crash. So how?
Yeah.
Tell us how, Robert.
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of good traders that lost at least some money initially on the COVID crash because it was so fast. And so I can't say that every week of the COVID crash I was making money. I wish I could, but I wasn't quite that good. But as things were shifting very, very quickly, I was able to adjust. And that goes back to some of the portfolio level management stuff that I do. You know, when you're trading a portfolio full of options, it can be pretty volatile. So you have to be sensitive to what the market's going to do. You just have to. So one of the tricks that I use is basically beta weighting the entire portfolio to the SPY. And for those of you who may not be aware, that means that, and I'll go over this more in the class, but that basically means you're looking at your portfolio and how it's going to respond based on what the market does. If the market goes up, what is your portfolio going to do? If the market goes down, what is your portfolio going to do? And I have developed through, years of research and back trading and back testing, I've developed rules that allow me to basically shift the overall bias of my portfolio. So normally I tend to carry a moderate to heavy bullish leaning bias, which is just, I believe, supported by history, which is the history is that the stock market generally goes up. There's positive drift in the market. And we can look at a 100-year-old XPX chart and see that. So that's my home base. But as things start to flatten out or go down, I'm able to, by looking at the deltas of my portfolio overall and all my positions, I'm able to position by position, trade by trade, I'm able to shift my bias to maybe a more neutral bias and then maybe even a bearish bias. So by the second or third week of COVID, I was in what you would call a bearish bias in my portfolio. So as the market was going down, I had some positions that were losing because I tend to maintain balance, but I had some positions that were winning. I shorted some bad companies. I, bought debit spreads, or I bought bear put spreads, so I was just doing different things to have a bearish bias on the market. That's really what it boils down to. That same flexibility comes back into play as things were going up. At the time, nobody knew that March 16th was the bottom. Nobody knew that day. We figured that out after a week or two. But as that started to happen and the recovery started to begin, then again, trade by trade, I'm able to shift back into a more bullish bias. And so I made money on the way down. I made money on the way up. And the real magic behind the way that I trade is really in the volatility. I was wrong directionally a little bit here and there. You can't help but be a little bit directionally wrong when you have moves that far and that fierce. But I reacted quickly and hedged correctly. You followed my plan. And so the where I made a lot of my money though in that time was in the volatility crush that followed that crash, because the volatility just went through the roof. Through that point, it was insane. And so it's a lot like pyramiding. You've talked about pyramiding in other classes where as a stock's going down, you're buying a little bit and then you're buying a little bit more and then you're buying a little bit more. Well, the VIX and volatility, generally speaking, tends to go up as the market goes down. So if I'm selling options and I'm kind of focusing on selling volatility in a high volatility environment, well, I'm pyramiding in an upward direction. So as a VIX is going up, I'm selling a little bit here, and then I'm selling a little bit here, and then I'm selling a little bit there, and I'm doing this with I'm not doing this with like naked options or anything like that. I didn't run out and sell a bunch of naked puts. I used some spreads. I made sure that my risk was managed, and how I do that exactly would probably, there's a whole section of the class devoted to that. So we will definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
But
That's killer. How did you learn all the Greeks, man? Like, did you read books, watch videos? That's rough.
Yes, I know it is. It can be a mind bender. There's a couple of things I did. I did do a lot of video watching, just Greeks on YouTube and this and that. And then I basically I didn't read any books. I wish I could move my camera. I could show you the laptop stand that's propping up my monitor right now. It's a massive options tome. It's I think every option trader has probably seen this book. It's Lawrence McMillan's Options as a Strategic Investment. Do you know that book?
Yeah. It's a real snooze fest, man.
Oh man, talk about going blind on numbers and spreadsheets. Dude. Believe it or not, though, I did dive into that book a little bit when it comes to just the Greeks. So I did do a little reading there, and then I just put in a lot of hours studying resources like Tasty Trade, or what's the other one? The online options forum or something like that. I have to pull up my email. I'll have the resources ready for class for those who are interested. But I just barricaded myself in a room for like 6 to 8 hours a day. Now, by the grace of God, I had the freedom to do that, right? Priscilla and I were running a business at the time, and so this was going to be my focus. I was not yet in a position where I had to be responsible as the primary income holder. It would have taken me longer, probably. I still think I would have got there, because you can find time for those things that you're passionate about. But for me, I was able to just like dive into the options and the option traders, and just a lot of repetition, and finally after a while it started to click, and how they function, what they are, what they do, how they can affect your positions in ways you don't even realize sometimes. I learned a lot of that through a lot of time study and some trial and error, some experience. There's no shortcut, unfortunately, but we're going to try to fix that. Maybe we can shortcut people a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, you can shorten the time horizon, but you can also just reduce the pain and the massive mistakes. People are going to make mistakes. Like you mentioned, you lost money. You mentioned you did some stupid stuff, but it wasn't crippling and debilitating. Like you didn't get divorced over it. Like
no,
it wasn't like. Trust me, man. Those stories exist, and
I'm sure.
I think we're doing a great job of, shortening that time horizon, helping people. But yeah, there's no shortcuts. Like you're gonna have to put in the time, you're gonna have to put in the energy, you have to put in the work. But we can, and we will, and are teaching people options in a way that I think very, very few, if anyone ever, has really done, because I am not a math person when it comes to my option trading. I know how to use it and I implore it, but I think it's going to be a really, really cool approach to have my more visual interpretation and your more math-based combination, because the option trading in IRAs is so exceptionally exciting for people to achieve and to understand because of the returns. Tell us a little bit about those, Robert. How have you been doing?
I mean, the capital efficiency of option trading is another thing that really attracted me to it. And it's you can get returns that rival stock returns for notional value or for actual buy power reduction level positions that are much smaller. That's why a lot of people like options, right? You can get in with a little bit of quote unquote cash and see wild returns. Now, typically that tends to happen more in the long premium trades, where you see these crazy numbers of like 300%, 500% return, whatever. But the efficiency that short premium option trading provides as well is just mind-boggling. Like, I think if you go to the RLT dashboard, the return on capital number is actually on there on the credit spread sheet, is it not?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's always an insane number, because you you're just getting so much leverage out of what you're doing. And
4,000% for the last few years.
Yeah.
It sounds,
yeah.
fake.
Yeah. No, I didn't have a 4,000% year last year. I mean, that would have been absolutely mind-boggling. But I had a 50-60% year, which, if you are trying to, if you think about that in terms of like a retirement account, I could, in an aggressive swing trade account, I think you can do better than that. And I think that there are definitely some strategies and some swing trading that we do that can give you returns at least that good or better, potentially, depending on what you're interested in. But for a retirement account where you're wanting to be, I got it. The magic of what I do is actually in the leverage, because I'm able to do it in an hour to a week tops. And that's really the main reason why I use it in my retirement accounts. I have swing trade accounts where I do much more active stuff. But the cool thing about the math-based options is, when done correctly, your best ally is really just time passing. Every day the sun comes up. I was talking to a friend about this when he asked me, why does this work? How does this work? And I'm like, if you're right on direction, that helps, but you don't have to be a completely right on direction. And the volatility is a big piece of it. It's huge. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at that and we're manipulating that correctly. But at the end of the day, if the sun comes up, that's probably a good thing for a short premium portfolio.
Yeah.
And while there are no guarantees in the stock market, we can guarantee that the sun is going to come up. And if it doesn't, we've got bigger problems than our IRA, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So because of that time advantage that exists, and in the math-based trading, you're able to get a lot of leverage, not only with your capital, but also with your time. So say, for example, you are a larger net worth individual and you want to have a lifestyle where you're not chained to a computer, and maybe you don't even want to be involved on a daily basis. It's not even short-term swing trading, it's more like medium-term swing trading. And so you can be at your all-inclusive resort, log into your laptop for a half an hour once or twice a week, set up some things, tweak some things. It's all automated, good till cancel orders and all of that. It's all based on math and probabilities. And you just set and forget, and then the next week you log in, see where you're at, rinse and repeat, and number go up.
Dude, 50 to 60% return in an IRA is dumb. Like, that is sensational. It's amazing. So having people,
thank you,
to know that, and to know that it's possible, and to know that it can be achieved, I think is quite staggering. And the big question that people are going to want to know: how long are you spending in front of the computer to do all this? It sounds like hours a day, like 9-10 hours a day.
So initially it was a lot, because I had to learn it all.
Yeah.
So we got to be upfront about the fact that you got to master the techniques. But once the techniques are mastered and you really understand how it's all working, I have it on autopilot now. I focus on practicing my day trading. I'm in front of the computer every day because I love it, but I'm working on my day trading. I'm working on different swing trading strategies. I'm in Slack. I'm playing with all the toys at that point. For the retirement account trading that we're going to talk about, I manage that, like I said, maybe 30 minutes a week, 60 minutes a week. I tend to log in, early in the week to kind of see how the weekend treated the positions, maybe make a few adjustments. And then I tend to log in at another point at the end of the week, like a Thursday or Friday. Because there is a point, if you've ever watched option prices on a Friday, there's a point where you can really see things coming down off a cliff. So I kind of like to get in ahead of that weekend vol crush a little bit. That might have been TMI there, but
makes sense.
The general idea is I'm in those portfolios a couple times a week for 20-30 minutes at a time.
You just got to learn it. You got to take the time up front to do it and put in all the work. And
yes. Yeah. And Hope it will not take it, the people who are listening. My goal is to not make it take you years like it took me. And basically, I look at myself as kind of a data aggregator, where I'm taking all this stuff I learned and practiced and absorbed for years, and I'm gonna streamline it all and condense it all and give you a method that you can just take and run with and hopefully have some success with.
I love it. And you also day trade and make money with that too.
Yes, I do. I've gotten more picky though. So when I went to the retreat in 2020, the September Nashville retreat, Matt DeLong was kind of banging the drum all week about closet swing traders who were masquerading as day traders. And I wouldn't say that was completely my story, because I've even then and since then, I've become so passionate about trading in general that I love it and I'm going to enjoy it. But one thing I did realize was, it's entirely possible to make good money swing trading. I thought I had to day trade because it's the only way to make income, consistent level, life-changing money and trading the stock market. And Matt helped me kind of realize that that's not really the case. If you have the right plan and you apply the right amount of leverage, swing trading can be also an effective way to create bill-paying money, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I do day trade, but I'm much more picky, so I day trade less frequently, which is good for me. You probably remember from our coaching sessions that I need a lot of rules and a lot of checks and balances. Otherwise, I'm a gambler. I mean, that's how I lost $5,000 in 5 minutes, was because I just never met a trade I didn't like, and I'm pulling that trigger and bang, bang, pow, pow, make that money. And sometimes if I get too sucked into that, I can damage myself. So I got very, very clear about very, very specific day trading setups that I look for. It's basically, I take a day trade a couple times a week, probably. And then the rest is all swing trading stuff that I've been developing more and more as I go.
Love it, man. And again, I'm not going to get too personal with all the details, but you have been able to do what you said earlier when you said be the man of your household and provide and really step up in a big financial way, because I know you and your wife have gone through a really hard transition with your business with COVID, like many, many, many families have. And that business is struggling, and it's hurting, and it's by no means over. She will only continue to make it succeed in time. But you're also being an absolute angel and a knight in shining armor, because you are covering all the losses and then some with your trading, which sounds like a dream for thousands of people watching this video.
Absolutely. Especially in a time like this, there's a lot of struggle and pain out there. We consider ourselves fortunate, and that's kind of the sad reality of the fitness industry and a lot of industries that have been squashed by the past year and the pandemic. We are losing money in the business every month when you look at just the business metrics, but we consider ourselves fortunate that we're still here, because we have a lot of friends and a lot of business owners in our network who didn't make it. And they had to pack it up. We have some friends who had to write checks to get out of their business, and they lost a vast majority of what they were relying on for their retirement. But, they're starting to look at trading now. So, hopefully there's some good direction for them in that regard. And it's because of what you said. They've seen kind of the journey that Priscilla and I've had, where, God bless her heart, she's battling every day. But when you can only do so much because you can only have so many people and blah, 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 it's just devastating to a fitness gym. And she's only been able to overcome so much of that. And fortunately, I'm in a position now with the skills I've developed and with the resources that we have available, that I am able to out trade the losses there. Now, Priscilla, being the fighter that she is, it doesn't sit well with her that even though we're doing okay, the business is where it's at. So she's going to continue to fight to turn that around. But it is definitely it's a relief for her too, because she felt alone for years. And this is what really pained me when I was trying to find direction in my life. It's like she struggled and she was out there battling, and I was trying to help here and there, but I'm not a trainer, so there's only so much I can do. And it was just this constant conversation of, man, I just wish I had some help. And that really hurt me, because it's like, dude, I'm supposed to be the help, I'm supposed to be the partner here that's really changing our direction, and being able to put the trading together in such a way that it is now kind of leading the charge at this point. I've never really had this before, I've never really had this opportunity or this feeling of, man, I'm really having a major impact on what's going on here.
Yep, love that, man. I love that so much. It's inspiring. It's inspiring. Last question, 60 seconds or less.
Okay.
Did you actually think that this was possible? Your level of success, where you're at?
No, I had to grow into that level of thinking. Yeah. When I first started, if you had told me that, I was going to change our lives, shore up our financial future, and save the business with my trading, I'm not sure I would have believed that. I had to come to that over time.
I'm glad you did, my friends. We're going to enrich lives together all over the world. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much for being a part of this, and thanks for helping me on my journey as well, to just impact people and really, really pour into them. And
absolutely.
The stock market is a force for good.
Oh yeah, it's there is nobody out there doing what you're doing with real life trading, what we're doing here, and I could not be more proud to be associated with everything that's going on here, and excited to enjoy the journey.
Love it, man. Well, friends and family, thank you for watching and listening to Robert Thompson's story and journey. I hope that you spend time with him during mentorship programs and one-on-one coaching, and especially I hope you've enjoyed Hedging with Options. Robert, thank you for being a dear friend and an incredible trader.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's a pleasure as always.